Hi everyone, I'm so happy to be back on Musicology making new videos, and so this will be the first of many new videos to come. If you're new to the channel, I do suggest watching my channel update video where I explain a bit about who I am and what I do. Today's video is based on a recent article I wrote for Mixmag Asia on the music of Animal Crossing's New Horizons. Mixmag Asia publishes really great content on the dance music scene in Asia, so I do recommend checking them out. I'm gonna leave the link in the description below. I really wanted to share this content with you in a more interactive way, so in this video, I'm going to be taking you through the article, which highlights the 10 most relevant tracks to dance music culture by KK Slider. And after that, I'll give you my take on an additional 5 KK Slider tracks as a kind of musicology exclusive. And make sure you stay tuned until the end because I will be taking you on a tour of my music festival site on my island in Animal Crossing, as well as a peek inside my house in the game where I have several music-themed rooms. Animal Crossing's New Horizons. Even if you're not playing it, chances are you know somebody who is. In May, Business Insider reported that sales of New Horizons, the 5th and latest iteration of the Nintendo title, had eclipsed the lifetime totals of previous Animal Crossing games, with over 13.4 million units sold in its first 6 weeks, representing the biggest launch in Nintendo Switch history. Whether that's because the game's March 20th release serendipitously coincided with the beginnings of global lockdowns from COVID-19, or simply because new features of the game mean that it is perfectly primed to leap out of the gaming world to intersect with other consumer industries, one thing is certain. New Horizons has propelled the franchise to dizzying new heights in the popular cultural stratosphere. Falling somewhere in between the social and farming simulator categories, Animal Crossing New Horizons revolves around harvesting natural resources that magically regenerate every few days in order to develop a deserted island into a paradise of your own imagining. It's a cycle that proves highly addictive, I'm speaking from personal experience here, with each day bringing fresh dopamine hits as you collect goods and in-game currency with which you can build, buy, gift, or trade items with. For all its childlike innocence, however, Animal Crossing is nonetheless haunted by capitalism and conspicuous consumption, as Ian Bogos notes in his excellent article in The Atlantic, which deconstructs some of the game's potential political and economic nuances. Indeed, New Horizons hilariously incorporates features familiar to our late capitalist sensibilities. Firstly, the need to secure extortionate, albeit interest-free loans to increase the size of your character's home, or to develop infrastructure on your island. And secondly, bordering on the truly absurd, the ability to take advantage of a fluctuating stock market involving the buying and selling of turnips for profit. Across the internet, websites, tutorials, and forums have proliferated in which players share tips and resources on the path to Animal Crossing riches. Head to Forbes, for example, where you can learn all about the turnip calculator or turnip exchange websites. Perhaps the most conspicuous element of New Horizons, however, has been its new customization feature, a first for the Animal Crossing series. Users are now able to design, upload, and share custom patterns for in-game textiles, landscapes, furniture, or clothes. As the game's popularity has soared, fashion brands have been quick to jump on the Animal Crossing viral bandwagon, with labels such as Valentino and Marc Jacobs officially publishing custom content codes and even hosting digital fashion shows in lieu of those cancelled due to coronavirus. And that's not even getting started on the tsunami of bootleg content ripping intellectual property from high fashion, high street, and streetwear labels, many of which are being chronicled on popular Instagram accounts, such as the Animal Crossing Fashion Archive. Between hanging out with adorable anthropomorphized animal neighbors, cultivating and collecting tropical flora and fauna, or flexing customized merch, it perhaps comes as no surprise that one of the most fascinating aspects of the game has been largely overlooked: the music. I'm not talking about the soundtrack of New Horizons that runs in the background while you play, but the in-game music. Let me explain. In film music studies, scholars draw a distinction between diegetic music and non-diegetic music. Diegetic means that characters in the film or game can hear the music. Think of Uma Thurman and John Travolta's characters dancing together to Chuck Berry's You Never Can Tell in Pulp Fiction, for example. Non-diegetic means characters can't hear the music, like the Imperial March, playing during Darth Vader's entrance in The Empire Strikes Back. In Animal Crossing, the diegetic music is all courtesy of an NPC named KK Slider. He's a charismatic white Jack Russell Terrier who is a celebrity in the game and a prolific musician, to say the least. KK's catalog is vast, with almost 100 different singles for sale in the game, although only one release is available per day. Each record is in the style of a major genre of music, and much like elevator muzak, the tunes are simple and childlike. Pastiches that essentialize diverse global and historical styles, from ragtime and jazz to calypso, bossa nova, rock, classical, and beyond. These tracks and their album art delight and amuse in equal measure. As a millennial, the experience of waiting for a new KK record to be available on my island, ordering and excitedly receiving it in the mail the next day, is probably as close as I'll ever get in 2020 to what previous generations of crate diggers experience for decades. Once the records arrive, you can either display them as art on the walls or surfaces of your home, or play them on a variety of devices, including retro record or CD players, turntables and mixers, or hi-fi systems. There are 96 KK Slider tracks in New Horizons, each in the style of a different genre. They are not sophisticated or authentic interpretations per se. Instead, the compositions are humble and caricature-like. Production-wise, the timbres and aesthetics sound homemade, as if produced on the kind of all-in-one keyboard synthesizers that children play with. The result is perfect for a video game, and is perhaps meant to subconsciously recall the music of earlier Nintendo releases that so many of Animal Crossing's adult players will have grown up playing. So, without further ado, here are the top 10 KK Slider tracks that resonate most with dance music culture. The first 5 are recognizable as dance music genres, while selections 6 to 10 represent important styles that preceded, influenced, and gave rise to electronic dance music. Number 1. KK House. Clocking in at 125 beats per minute, KK House fits the bill for tempo and vibes as a throwback to old school house with its 4-to-the-floor kick and snare pattern, funky disco bassline, and Italo house piano breakdown. For the verses, enjoy the blues notes-filled melody carried on the lead synth in possibly the catchiest and most listenable of KK's tunes. Number 2. KK D&B. The nostalgia of KK D&B doesn't stop at its geometric album art. The track, which runs at 152 BPM, is more reminiscent of early jungle than contemporary drum and bass, with its slower tempo, pitched snare runs, and planet rock-esque stabs in the breakdown. Here's a fan-made remaster, which includes the 2-step pattern that's missing from the original, while adding more drama and punch to the other melodic elements. Number 3. KK Technopop. With an infantile interplay of staccato synth hits that bounce around like ping-pong balls as this track's main hook, KK Technopop's edgiest feature is definitely the artwork. If you pay attention to the pad that plays in the breakdowns before the beat drops, you'll notice that it was sampled in KK D&B. Now we're getting meta. Number 4. DJ KK. fastest track in this selection, DJ KK's highly suggestive psychedelic artwork. Look at those stamped, shall we say, circles in the background, is definitely a trip. Unfortunately, DJ KK is a bit on the annoying side beyond 1 or 2 listens, which can be attributed, at least in my opinion, to its sickly sweet melody lines and relentless alternating bass and kick that border on hardcore gabber intensity. Number 5, Space KK. The sparsest arrangement of the lot, Space KK is constructed from a repetitive 2-chord figure in the bass, with a staccato lead once again making an appearance in the treble. Reverb and delay are applied to this staccato melody as the track progresses before the cycle repeats itself. At 99 BPM, it veers more towards the ambient experimental side of the electronic spectrum, with austere and headsy artwork to match. Number 6, KK Disco. In competition with KK House for the catchiest KK track, KK Disco could give Daft Punk a run for its money. As if the Saturday Night Fever vibe KK Slider is rocking on the cover isn't cute enough, the contour of the melody is very reminiscent of Chaka Khan's I'm Every Woman, making it endlessly hummable. Remix version, anyone? Number 7, KK Reggae. Skanking on beats 2 and 4, KK Reggae is one of 2 tracks in this selection where you can hear the dog's voice, or in this case, his woof, singing along with the melody. Each phrase ends with a flourish on the conga and a dub fade-out applied on the synth chords, giving a true Jamaican flavor. Number 8, the K-Funk. The K-Funk delivers on the coolness advertised on its cover, at least on an Animal Crossings level, that is. The drums and bassline are tight, and if there was a Guy Ritchie directed film of Animal Crossing, this track, with its funky interplay between brass and beats, would definitely have to be in it. Number 9, KK Groove. Syncopated to the max, KK Groove also features a wicked brass section that plays around throughout the track in a playful call and response. And then there's that drum break that's begging to be sampled. Groovy. Number 10, KK Blues. Built on a classic 12-bar blues structure, KK Blues instrumentation is simple: bass, guitar, and voice. With short, dry guitar chords and a traditional walking bass line, the melody takes precedence with KK on whistling duties. It is the last but certainly not the least. Blues music is the oldest black genre interpreted by KK Slider in this list, having emerged in the American South in the late 19th century, which means that all of the styles covered above can be traced back to the blues in one way or another. Please note that the versions discussed here are the air check versions that are for sale in the game, as opposed to the live versions KK Slider performs when he visits your island. What's next for KK Slider? What if Nintendo uploaded his catalog to Spotify and other streaming services, and KK Slider took on a life of his own? What if leading industry producers and musicians were brought in to do an official remix album? What if KK Slider could then tour as a holographic concert performer? One can only dream. But in the meantime, I'll be chilling on my virtual island. So there you have it, my article for Mixmag Asia on the music of KK Slider in Animal Crossing New Horizons. And as promised, now a Musicology exclusive, giving you my take on 5 additional KK tunes, starting with KK Western, which emulates the music of spaghetti westerns, opening with that obvious nod to the good, the bad, and the ugly. The melody itself seems to borrow from The House of the Rising Sun, a traditional folk song covered famously by the Animals in 1964. This folk song actually has a long and rich history in the US, which might explain why they quote it here to evoke this earlier chapter of American history. Ska, Jamaica's 1960s export that preceded rocksteady and reggae, was the country's first indigenous expression to garner worldwide attention. Its signature rapid offbeat emphasis is evident here, as is the expressive brass section, very common in ska, where many records were instrumentals that flirted with R&B and bebop alike. Hailing from Brazil, samba is a style closely associated with dance, and you can see on the artwork here that this little birdie is enjoying the country's annual carnaval, with KK on percussion just behind her. Throughout the whole track here, you can hear a double-pitched agogo bell keeping time with a traditional samba rhythm. Plucked strings in the opening, mellow drums, and a cool pitch-bending synth works up the perfect atmosphere here for KK Cruisin', strongly reminiscent of West Coast G-Funk. I wish he could have rapped over it though. Or woof over it. And finally, KK Rock comes in roaring with lead guitar, harking back to the late 1970s, early 1980s classic rock. The guitar here treated to some fun distortion and effects, Animal Crossing style, before harmonizing for an epic end-of-phrase lick. So, what do you think? What was your favorite KK Slider track? Leave a comment down below. And if you play Animal Crossing, are there any other tracks that you're a fan of? Let me know. Maybe I can do a little comment reply to analyze that as well. Now, it's time for our island tour. I'm gonna take you on a tour of my music festival, followed by a sneak peek into my house, which has a couple of music-themed rooms. So here we're queuing to get into the festival. A couple of my friends came down to the island, so thank you guys for coming. And here we are on the main dance floor. Got a little light show going. And I do see that those are actually guitar amps and not normal speakers, but I couldn't find any speakers in the game, so that will just have to do. Queuing up here for the porta potties. And you can see in the back I've got a generator for the decks and speaker setup. Because, you know, it's kind of like a more of an indie, low-key music festival. Not a big EDM thing, but more of almost like a rave, really. So you can see the acid smiley face on the sign there, custom designed. I mean, I took it from Google, the image, but yeah, it was like a custom thing that I made for the game. And here we are in the chill out section, just enjoying some coconut drinks. Right, now to what I call the Cherry Lounge. This is inside my home. It's a bit of a music room, got all these instruments, and I just wanted it to be fully lit by these wonderful cherries, because cherries are the official fruit of my island, so it's a little nod to the island as well. It's kind of like the after party here right now, actually. So we're so cool, right? Now this is my game room. You can see I have some of the artwork of the KK records on the wall. I was going for more of a kind of 70s vibe with this room. Got the retro activities, the piano, the jukebox, the record player with vinyl underneath. For this room, I was inspired by kind of an Illuminati cigar lounge, but I have the old-fashioned gramophone player there. And now we're gonna run over to my beach lounge. Again, we have another portable record player here. And this is just meant to evoke kind of resort or hotel resort loungy area. Thanks for watching, and I'll be back soon with a new video. I'm working also on some of the requests that you guys sent in, so wish me luck. Please hit like, leave a comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. It helps me to grow the channel, and I'm planning to release a new video every month, so stay tuned for the next one.